Mario Kart Wii has some of the most iconic tracks in the franchise, and even though the game is now a legal adult, there are still many secrets hidden in these tracks. Today, I'm gonna go through all 32 and give you obscure facts about every single one of them. And before I begin this video, I need to give a huge shout out to B_Squo. This guy is literally the GOAT at finding obscure facts on Mario Kart Wii, so go follow him on Twitter. Starting with the Luigi circuit. As you know, when the credits roll in Mario Kart Wii, the racers drive through a different version where there's a sunset. This alternate version of the track was actually used in some online tournaments back in the day. If you check the rankings for that tournament, you would see this banner, which has a few strange things. First, the pipes in the background are red instead of blue, and it also looks like they didn't even actually use this alternate version of the track, because there is some blue showing from the pipes, and it seems like someone poorly edited the original banner to look like this. Also in this version, there is a single item box placed way below the track. If you look at the promotional art for the game, you will see that these banners in the Luigi circuit say Mario Kart, but when you are actually racing, they are changed to Nintendo. And in the photograph you get after completing a cup, it seems like the banners again say Mario Kart, and also the giant Luigi hat is missing. This indicates that some changes were made in the final raceable version of the track. Moving on to Moo Moo Meadows. The cows have an unused running animation, which can be seen in an early E3 trailer, but in the final version they only walk. Moo Moo Meadows was remade in both Mario Kart 8 and Mario Kart World, but it also has appearances in two other games. First, in Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games London 2012, in the Dream Equestrian event, there is a track literally called Moo Moo Meadows. It shares the same design, but the layout is not one-to-one. Then in the Mario Kart Live Home Circuit game, there is a track theme called Windmill Meadows. It uses the Moo Moo Meadows music and has cows running throughout the track as obstacles, so even though it's not the same title, it's pretty obvious what the inspiration was. On Mushroom Gorge, the CPUs display a strange behavior. If you pay attention to them during a race, you will notice that they will never trick off of these trampoline mushroom pads. They are coded this way to likely prevent them from falling off the track. There are also 5 unused item boxes that appear on the left path in the cave. You can see these item boxes appear in pre-release images of the game, and they are also visible in the credits sequence. It seems like instead of the 4 boxes at the end of the green mushroom, the original plan was to have a cluster of 3 if you continued to stay left, and then have a group of 2 if you chose to go down the middle. Toad's Factory has a strange glitch. If you break an item box at the moving conveyor section, you can briefly see the item box spawn back in for only 1 frame before it is teleported into the openings of the conveyor where it normally spawns in. Entering the Flower Cup, Mario Circuit's expert staff ghost is by Nin Coney, and the time he finishes with is a 144.777. This might not seem special at first, but Nin Coney has another staff ghost in the game on Peach Gardens, and its time is a 216.777. This is already kinda cool, but then in Mario Kart 7, he appears again on Mario Circuit 2 with a time of 117.777. 3 very intentional times that undoubtedly took him many attempts. Coconut Mall is the only track in Mario Kart Wii that features a rainbow gradient on the boost pads. Every other track has this magenta, yellow, orange gradient. This is most likely an oversight from early versions of the boost pads. Coconut Mall is famous for its out of bounds glitch, letting you explore the mall, and one of the coolest areas you can reach is underneath this staircase. There is a vertical road which you can drive straight up on if you repeatedly hop. This track also features one of the most unique shortcuts in the game that to this day, I have yet to have seen pulled off in a real race. Credit to Demons and Fire05 for the discovery, and the Track Breakers MKW on YouTube for uploading footage. If you get shocked at this section, you can drive up the stairs while tiny and fall through the floor. Then you can cut off the last few turns of the track. There is a missing tile at this section which might be the reason why you can fall through. The reason I say the shortcut is unique is because it's the only one in the game that requires you to be tiny. DK Summit has 3 hidden item boxes deep below the track, but you probably already knew that. What I'm willing to bet you didn't know is that DK Summit actually has its own unique trick visual effect. This is the normal tricking effect in the game, and this is the one that appears on DK Summit. It might look exactly the same, but when comparing the in-game footage and trying to match it up with these particle effect examples, it does appear that the sparkles on DK Summit's tricks fly more upward and to the left, while every other track has the sparkles fly more downward and to the right. DK Summit also has a foggy effect that appears early in the race, but by the time you hit lap 3, that fog clears up. And finally, these Shy Guys all do flips when they go up the half pipe, but the red Shy Guy at the end is the only one that does 3 flips, while the yellow and green ones just do 2. The final track in the Flower Cup is Wario's Gold Mine. It is one of the coolest settings of any track, a village constructed on the side of a cliff. But this idea was not the work of some creative genius, because it was pretty clearly inspired by the 1984 animated movie Castle in the Sky. There was an online tournament in Wario's Gold Mine where you race against a Wiggler, and in it you can only pull certain items. The bullet bill was not included in that item pool, but if you were to hack one in, it would take a slightly different route than compared to a normal race, with the biggest difference being that when it goes off the big ramp, it will fly straight forward and go under the track. Moving on to the Star Cup, Daisy Circuit's design appears to have been inspired by the real-life Monaco Grand Prix. Daisy Circuit features a coastal street setting, a yacht-filled harbor, a tunnel section, and a tight hairpin around the lighthouse, elements that closely resemble some of Monaco's most iconic characteristics. The layout itself isn't a direct recreation of the Formula 1 circuit, but Nintendo definitely borrowed the atmosphere and landmarks of Monte Carlo and transformed them into this Mario Kart track. Also, Daisy Cruiser can be seen in the background of this track. Mario Kart Wii is famous for its janky physics, and Koopa Cape is one of the best tracks to put this on display. First, in the underwater tube section, if you ride up the wall, there is a chance that you get stuck spinning on the ceiling. You can also dodge a blue shell in this area without a mushroom or invincibility item. If you ride up to the side of the wall at the right time, it can make the blue shell explode early because it hits the ceiling. There's also another way to dodge a blue without a mushroom on this track, by dragging an item down the waterfall. The blue shell hits your trail first because you're driving straight down, and again it explodes early. The water itself also has some strange properties. While in a Mega Mushroom, you can shroom in the water section and go above the game's normal speed cap. And normally this water at the end of the track is supposed to drag you down, but with a properly timed trick boost of Mini Turbo, you can actually cut through it. And finally, if you trick off to the right on this last ramp, you can fall down to the seafloor without touching out of bounds, making a perfect hide and seek spot. Maple Treeway has a pretty cool out of bounds glitch. If you can get a standstill Mini Turbo and then wiggle around on this last branch, you can fall down to below the track. There isn't a whole lot you can do down here, but it does look pretty funny on the minimap. Maple also has a lot of overlapping track sections, and because of this you can pull off some unintended skips. But the coolest one is this. If you get POW'd, you can fly up the side before the hut and land in the Wiggler section, but unfortunately the lap will not count. What's funny is that this hut in the same area is so tall that it also reaches the Wiggler section, and you can even bump into the top of it while driving. Now for Grumble Volcano, it has been speculated that the music on this track shares a similar 4-note pattern with the music that plays in Freeze Flame Galaxy in Super Mario Galaxy, and I'll let you be the judge. Given that they are both lava-themed levels, and that Mario Kart Wii directly has other musical references like you'll see later on Rainbow Road, it's not a surprise that they would at least take some inspiration for the sound design. Grumble Volcano also has a secret that I never really see people talk about. In Mario Kart Wii, you have the rocket boost at the beginning of every race, where if you hold A at the right time, you go flying as the race starts. It's purely timing based, and you're supposed to do it around the time when the 2 starts to disappear. But on Grumble Volcano, an eruption sound is made that happens almost exactly at the time where you would hold A to get the full startup boost. So maybe Nintendo did this intentionally to give a perfect audio indicator. Starting off in the Special Cup, Dry Dry Ruins has some special properties. First, this sand room might look like sand falls from the ceiling to create bigger piles. However, what's actually happening is that the sand piles are already full size, and they are hidden below the track and rise slowly over time. There's an invisible cactus over here that will make you spin out, even though you touch nothing. And then at the temple entrance, you can actually trick off of these platforms that the statues are standing on. The easiest way to do this is while driving backwards, and because there's an invisible wall preventing you from actually landing in this area, it's clear that this was a leftover unintended design choice. In the credit scene when Moonview Highway shows up, Mario is seen driving in the Wild Wing, but if you slow the footage down and look closely, you'll see that there's actually a second Mario to the left in the standard card. There is a giant sign in the city section on Moonview Highway that shows a poster for a play called The Mushroom Moon. In it, you can see that Petey Piranha is climbing the tower, sort of like King Kong. The text used on this poster is actually the same one that comes from Pikmin games. And unrelated to Moonview Highway, there's also a couple other elements that Mario Kart Wii takes directly from the Pikmin series. In an early version of Bowser's Castle, it appears that a cannon was planned to be used in the track at some point. And in this version of the track, it is positioned right on top of the Bowser statue. This next fact is pretty well known, but Bowser's Castle's music appears to be a slowed down version of Maple Treeway. Take a listen. Also, this melody appears in the end credit scene as well. Finally, there is a very little known shortcut on this track, where you can shroom off the last ramp and fly through the wall to cut off the last turn. It can be difficult with vehicles that don't get a lot of airtime, but it definitely looks cool. Rainbow Road has a few references to Mario Galaxy. First of all, the star bits, but also the music as I mentioned earlier. There is a section of the Rainbow Road song that is a direct rip from the Good at Galaxy music. The texture used for the actual road of this track is surprisingly detailed. If you zoom in really close and wiggle around a bit, you can start to make out the image of countries, like here is obviously Japan. And the texture they used is actually a map of the world. Now let's move on to the retro tracks, starting with Peach Beach. There are only 3 colors of Cataquacks in Mario Kart Wii, being red, purple, and green. But in Double Dash, there is also a blue variant. This goes unused in Mario Kart Wii, but it still exists in the game's code. Then if you enter the water while your vehicle has a boost effect, it will not travel with you and instead sticks to the point where you enter the water. The left route on Peach Beach has this ramp that clips through the floor, and if you look underneath it, you can see a hidden 4th boost pad. Yoshi Falls also has things hidden beneath its surface. Every one of the palm trees has a cross shape made out of Nintendo signs at the bottom that are completely underneath the floor. And what's crazy is that this also seemed to have happened in the original DS version. The brick walls in Ghost Valley 2 have very strange properties. If you bounce up on them, your vehicle will be rocked back and forth and it's very hard to control. Also, in time trials and online races, these bricks fall away at certain time periods. However, in offline races, you can bump into them, which will make the individual block fall early. Mario Raceway has a tree that you can drive inside of. Cool. The penguins on Sherbetland seem to have been directly taken from Super Mario 64 DS. This is because there are unused facial expressions for the penguins in Mario Kart Wii that do appear in Mario Kart 64 DS. Then this boost pad in the cave is not very accurate. You can still get the boost effect even when you're touching the edge and not the actual boost pad. And if you fall off this track with Toadette, while she is respawning in the ice block, her pigtails will disappear. Shy Guy Beach has one of the absolute craziest facts that I didn't know about until researching this video. The music on Shy Guy Beach is actually a sample from the 1959 film A Summer Place. I can't play the audio because of copyright, but just look it up. It's glaringly obvious that they have the same melody. Now for Delfino Square, I really couldn't find much about this track. It famously has this door on the side of a house that leads directly to the ocean, but this actually isn't the only one. Around the corner at the first part of the double shortcut, there are 4 more houses that lead you straight to the water. Delfino Square has a pretty iconic theme music, but did you know in the original DS version, if you were driving close enough to the Piantas, they will actually chant along to the music. Waluigi Stadium has a duplicate item box at this first item ring. If you look closely, you can see a box inside of a box. Funnily enough, the second fire ring set has a box that is nearly impossible to collect. When going off this ramp, there is no vehicle in the game, whether it be large from a Mega or shrunk from the Shock, that will hit it. You will always fly over it. In order to get this box, you have to do a funny maneuver where you swerve off the side of the ramp without tricking. Waluigi Stadium also has a completely different version of the track that appears in Mario Kart Arcade GP. In the game, there is a track called Waluigi Stadium that has a really strange mechanical dinosaur theme. it still has the dirt bike stadium atmosphere, but then it just also has metal reptiles. Starting off in the Leaf Cup with Desert Hills, this track is basically an homage to Mario Bros 3 World 2. All the scenery and enemies are taken directly from Mario Bros 3. This includes the angry sun, the stack of breakable blocks, the red pipe, and these blocks with the screws in the corners. I don't know what the official name is, but they're pretty iconic. Desert Hills also has probably the craziest ultra shortcut in the game, which is saying a lot. On the Tiny Titan, you can flip upside down and then ride through the out of bounds area. And because your head is touching the dead zone and not the cart, you can slide on through and proceed to hit the key checkpoints to pull off the Ultra. Now for GCN Mario Circuit, there are 4 unused versions of this track in the game's files. Some of them appear to be a direct port from the Double Dash version of the track, as the mounts at the end of the track are identical, whereas the final version they were changed. One of the versions also has you drive the track backwards, which the CPUs surprisingly follow the right path. So it seems like this track may have been one of the first tracks of Mario Kart Wii's development, where they were just testing things out. And this is further supported by the fact that GCN Mario Circuit is a beta track that went unused in Mario Kart DS. Bowser's Castle 3, although it's one of my favorite tracks, is kind of boring. As I mentioned in my every item video, if you throw a bomb at this thwomp at the starting line before it has a chance to ever touch the ground, the game will crash. But another interesting thwomp interaction has to be at this boost ramp. If you fly into one of these thwomps while midair, you can still get flattened, which doesn't really make sense. But this appears to be the only track where this interaction is seen. DK Jungle Parkway's cannon has a few unique properties. First, you can actually get hit into the cannon from below with an explosion. And if you use a star directly into the Parkway cannon and then drive on the grass afterwards, you will get slowed down. This will happen with other cannons, but there is no off-road to demonstrate it. Jungle Parkway surprisingly has 0 places where you can get a trick boost. Mario Circuit 3 is famous for being completely flat with no trick spots, but Parkway is the only other track in the game where you cannot trick off anything. Finally, in Mario Kart World, data miners found that the track Faraway Oasis was originally titled DK Jungle Parkway. It seemed like they started off with this track as a template and then deviated to make it more Safari themed. And finally, we reached the Lightning Cup. As I just mentioned, Mario Circuit 3 has no places to trick, and it has no elevation changes either. Because of this, it is the only track left out of the 32 that has no ultra shortcut. That was until this year, where Ka de Loru uploaded this video where he gets the CPU to repeatedly bump him so he can fly over the invisible wall. He cuts off about half the track, and then once he hits the last turn, his position updates and the lap counts. This is really cool, but it is only possible with CPUs. So as far as time trials are concerned, this track is still unbroken. In the square hedges of Peach Gardens, for some reason the flower bush texture has a duplicate layer underneath, which is not seen on the other shaped hedges. And when Mario Kart 8 Deluxe added Peach Gardens in the booster pass, they changed the layout where you drive backwards on this alternate path. But did you know this path actually exists in Mario Kart Wii as well? It is clearly seen from above and could have easily been intended as a separate route at first. DK Mountain has a texture error. In the Double Dash version, the gray rocky area blends into the next grassy section. But in Mario Kart Wii, there is a clear hard cutoff. Also in the Double Dash version, the sign before the cannon says Donkey Cannon, but in Mario Kart Wii, it was changed to DK Cannon. Finally, the last track, Bowser's Castle 64. There are 2 obscure shortcuts in this track that not many people know about. First, at the bridge, you can wall clip off of this railing and land in the lava. This will respawn you after the spiral and saves a lot of time. This shortcut actually has its own time trial category, however almost no one plays it. This second shortcut was discovered by Michael. He clips off the wall and lands on top of this sign to clip out of bounds. This respawns him all the way into the sliding thwomp room, again saving a lot of time. In the Mario Kart 64 instruction manual, there are triangles placed on the map indicating you to watch out for falling rocks. But on this track, there are no falling rocks or any other obstacles in this area. This is actually because of a translation error. In the Japanese manual, this is merely a warning not to fall off the track. But when the track was remade in Mario Kart Wii, if you look at the fire pillars placements, they are in almost the exact same spots as the triangles, except for this one on the last ramp. And that's it. I hope you learned something new. Subscribe for more Mario Kart Wii.